The gunshot that killed Mayor Harrison Webb still echoed in Willa Forrester's nightmares, even though she had been 3 miles outside of Raton, New Mexico, tending to her sick mare when the bullet found his heart. The wanted poster with her face, sketched in crude charcoal lines, promised $500 to whoever brought her in, dead or alive. And that kind of money made even honest men consider becoming hunters. She had been running for 6 weeks now, sleeping in caves and abandoned mine shafts, stealing what food she could from homesteads when darkness provided cover. Her once pristine blue cotton dress hung in tatters around her ankles, and her blonde hair had grown matted and wild. At 22 years old, Willa had expected her life to involve marriage and children by now, not fleeing across the New Mexico territory with a noose waiting for her back home. The injustice of it burned hotter than the July sun beating down on the desert landscape, but anger would not keep her alive. Only caution and constant movement could do that. The water in her canteen had run dry that morning, and desperation drove her toward a small creek she spotted from a ridge. She knew better than to approach in daylight, but thirst made fools of even the most careful fugitives. As she knelt by the water, cupping handfuls to her cracked lips, she heard the unmistakable click of a rifle being cocked behind her. "Do not move," a man's voice said, low and steady. "Put your hands where I can see them." Willa's heart hammered against her ribs as she slowly raised her wet hands. This was it then. 6 weeks of freedom ending at some nameless creek because her body had betrayed her with its need for water. "Turn around," slowly. She obeyed, squinting against the sun to see her captor. He was tall, maybe 6 feet, with dark brown hair that touched his collar and eyes the color of whiskey. A battered brown hat shaded his face, and his leather vest bore the dust of long travel. He could not have been much older than 25, and something in his expression seemed less certain than his steady hands on the rifle. "You are Willa Forrester," he said. It was not a question. "I am," she replied, seeing no point in lying. "Are you going to kill me here or drag me back to collect your blood money?" His jaw tightened. "I am not killing anyone. Name is Finn Zimmerman. I am a ranch hand from the Double Creek spread about 30 miles north of Raton, and I am not after the bounty." Willa studied him, searching for the lie, but found only a strange mixture of determination and something that looked almost like sympathy. "Then why are you pointing that rifle at me?" "Because I needed to make sure you would not run before I could talk to you." He lowered the weapon slowly. "I know you did not kill Mayor Webb." The words struck her like physical blows. In 6 weeks, not one person had spoken them aloud, had given voice to the truth she screamed inside her own head every waking moment. Her legs gave out, and she sank back down beside the creek, suddenly unable to stand. Finn moved closer, crouching a few feet away but keeping respectful distance. "I was in Raton the day of the murder. I had brought cattle to market and was settling accounts at the general store. I saw you ride out of town that morning, heading east toward your family's property. The mayor was shot at noon in his office. There is no way you could have done it." "Then why do they want me?" Willa's voice broke. "Why does everyone believe I killed him?" "Because someone made sure they would. I have been asking questions, quiet-like, trying to piece it together." Finn pulled a canteen from his belt and offered it to her. "Drink. You look half dead." She took it gratefully, the water soothing her parched throat. "Why would you help me? You do not even know me." "My sister was accused of something she did not do once," Finn said quietly. "Stealing from the family she worked for as a housemaid. They had no proof, but her word meant nothing against theirs. She was run out of town, died of fever 2 months later while living rough. I was only 15 then, too young and stupid to know how to help her." I swore I would not stand by and watch injustice happen again if I could prevent it. Willa saw the old pain in his eyes, the guilt that still haunted him. I am sorry about your sister. Me too. He stood, offering his hand to help her up. Now we need to get you somewhere safe while I finish what I started. I know who killed Mayor Webb, but I need proof before anyone will listen. She took his hand, feeling the calluses earned from honest work, the strength in his grip. Who killed him? His own nephew, Daniel Webb. The mayor had no children, planned to leave everything to charity. Daniel wanted that inheritance, and he wanted it now. I heard him arguing with the mayor 2 days before the murder, threatening him. But Daniel is clever. He made sure you would take the fall. How did he manage that? Willa asked as Finn led her away from the creek toward a small canyon where his horse waited. Your handkerchief was found in the mayor's office, clutched in his hand. You had been there the week before, asking for help with your property taxes. Daniel must have taken it then, saved it for the murder. And he spread rumors that you and the mayor had argued, that he had refused to help you. Willa remembered that meeting, how kind Mayor Webb had been, how he had personally arranged for an extension on her taxes after her father's death left her struggling to maintain the small ranch. He was a good man. He did not deserve what happened. No, he did not. Finn's horse, a sturdy buckskin gelding, raised its head as they approached. This is Chester. He will carry us both until we get to a safe place I know. Old mining cabin about 10 miles from here. No one has used it in years. As Finn helped her mount, his hands careful and respectful on her waist, Willa felt something shift inside her chest. This stranger was risking everything to help her, asking nothing in return except the chance to right a wrong. She had been alone for so long, trusting no one, that the simple act of human kindness nearly undid her. They rode in silence for the first hour, the desert landscape rolling past in shades of red and brown. The August heat pressed down like a blanket, but Willa barely noticed. Her mind raced with questions, with the possibility that she might actually survive this nightmare. Tell me about your ranch, Finn said eventually, his voice carrying back to her where she sat behind him. Before all this happened, Willa rested her forehead against his back, suddenly exhausted. It was small, 50 acres, enough for some cattle and horses. My father built it from nothing, spent 20 years making it profitable. When he died last winter, everyone assumed I would sell, but I could not. It was all I had left of him. You ran it yourself. I did. I grew up working cattle, can rope and brand as well as any man. The hands respected me, and we were starting to turn a profit again. Her voice hardened. I wonder who has it now. Probably sold for taxes I cannot pay while I am busy running for my life. Finn's back tensed under her cheek. We will get it back. Once your name is cleared, we will get it all back. She wanted to believe him, but hope felt dangerous. You sound very confident for a man with no proof. I have some proof, just not enough. He guided Chester around a cluster of sage brush. I have a witness who saw Daniel leaving the mayor's office around the time of the murder. But she is a working girl from the saloon, and no judge will take her word over Daniel's. I need something concrete, something that ties him directly to the crime. What are you planning? I am going to search Daniel's house. He inherited the mayor's estate, moved right in like he had been waiting for it. If he kept anything from the murder, any evidence, it will be there. Willa lifted her head. That is incredibly dangerous if he catches you. He will not catch me. I know how to be quiet. Finn glanced back at her and she saw a hint of a smile. I was not always a ranch hand. Spent some time as a scout for the army, tracking Apache raiders. I learned a thing or two about moving unseen. The mining cabin appeared as the sun began its descent toward the horizon. It was more sturdy than Willa expected, built into the side of a hill with thick timber walls. Finn dismounted first, then helped her down, his hands lingering on her waist a moment longer than necessary. "Wait here while I check inside," he said, pulling his pistol. "Could be rattlesnakes or worse." He emerged a few minutes later. "All clear. Not comfortable, but it will keep you hidden. There is even an old stove, so you can have a fire at night when no one will see the smoke." Inside, the cabin smelled of dust and abandonment, but it felt like a palace compared to the caves she had been sleeping in. A rough bunk built into the wall, a table with 2 chairs, and the promised stove comprised the only furniture. Finn unsaddled Chester and brought the horse around to a small corral behind the cabin where a natural spring provided water. "I brought supplies," he said, unpacking his saddlebags. "Jerky, hardtack, some coffee and beans. Not fancy, but it will keep you fed. I will come back in 3 days with more, and hopefully with the evidence we need." Willa watched him work, this stranger who had become her only ally. In the dimming light, she could see him more clearly now. He had a strong face, not handsome in the classical sense, but honest and open. His movements were efficient, someone who understood hard work and did not shy from it. When he caught her staring, she looked away quickly. "Why are you really doing this?" she asked. "The truth. It cannot just be about your sister." Finn set down the supplies and turned to face her fully. "Maybe it started that way. But when I saw your picture on that wanted poster, saw the fear in your eyes even in that crude drawing, I knew I had to help. And then I started asking questions, started learning about you. Everyone I talked to said the same things. That you were honest, hardworking, kind to your hands even when money was tight. That you nursed old Mrs. Patterson through pneumonia last winter, sitting with her for 3 days straight. That you gave half your supplies to the Rodriguez family when their crops failed." He stepped closer. "You are a good person, Willa Forrester, and good people deserve justice." Tears burned in Willa's eyes. She had held them back for 6 weeks, refused to let herself break, but his words cracked something open inside her. She turned away, not wanting him to see her cry. But Finn moved around to face her, gently tilting her chin up with his fingers. "It is all right to cry. God knows you have earned it." She broke then, sobbing against his chest as he wrapped his arms around her. He smelled of leather and sage and horse, clean and masculine and safe. He held her without speaking, one hand stroking her matted hair until the storm passed. "I am sorry," she whispered finally, stepping back and wiping her eyes. "I have not let myself feel anything in so long. Do not apologize. You have been incredibly strong." He brushed a strand of hair from her face, his touch gentle. "But you do not have to be strong alone anymore. I am here, and I am not leaving until this is finished." Something passed between them in that moment, an understanding that went deeper than words. Willa felt it in her chest, warm and unfamiliar and terrifying. She barely knew this man, had met him only hours ago, but already she felt connected to him in a way she had never experienced before. Finn cleared his throat, stepping back. "I should go. Need to make it back to the ranch before my boss starts asking questions. I told him I was tracking a mountain lion that had been killing calves, bought myself a few days." "Be careful," Willa said. "Daniel Webb is dangerous. He killed his own uncle for money. He would not hesitate to kill you." "I will be careful. You stay hidden, do not light fires during the day, and do not go wandering. I will be back in 3 days." He paused at the door. "Willa, I am going to fix this. I promise you that." After he left, the cabin felt unbearably empty. Willa forced herself to eat some of the jerky, to drink water from the canteen Finn had left. She stretched out on the bunk, feeling the luxury of a flat surface after weeks of sleeping on rocks and hard ground. But sleep would not come. Her mind kept returning to Finn, to the way he had held her, to the determination in his voice when he promised to help. She barely knew him, she reminded herself. He could be lying about everything. But her instincts, honed by years of reading people and animals, told her he was genuine. Something about Finn Zimmerman made her want to trust again, to believe that maybe the world still held good people who did right, just because it was right. The 3 days passed with agonizing slowness. Willa cleaned the cabin, washed her dress as best she could, and used a comb from Finn's supplies to work the tangles from her hair. She found herself preparing for his return like a girl getting ready for a social, which was ridiculous given the circumstances. But she could not help it. Something about Finn had awakened feelings she thought had died with her old life. He arrived on the evening of the 3rd day, riding fast, his face grim. Willa's heart sank as he dismounted. "You did not find anything," she said. "I found something, just not what I was hoping for." Finn pulled a leather journal from inside his vest. Daniel keeps detailed records, very detailed, including a page where he calculated his inheritance down to the penny, dated 2 months before the murder. And notes about your property, about how its water rights would make it valuable to the railroad coming through. Willa took the journal, flipping through pages of neat handwriting. But this is not proof he killed the mayor. No, but it establishes motive. Combined with the witness testimony, it might be enough to create reasonable doubt. Finn ran a hand through his hair. "There is something else. I talked to the undertaker who prepared the mayor's body. He said the angle of the bullet wound was wrong for you to have fired it. The mayor was shot from above, probably by someone standing on a chair or step stool. You are what, 5'4", 5'3". And Daniel Webb is 6 feet tall. The undertaker said he mentioned this to the sheriff, but no one wanted to hear it. They already had their suspect." Finn's jaw clenched. "The sheriff is Daniel's cousin. I think he helped cover this up. So what do? We cannot go to the law if they are corrupt. We go over their heads, straight to the territorial judge in Santa Fe, but I need you to trust me, Willa. We have to ride there together, get you in front of someone who will actually listen. It is risky. If we are caught along the way, they will hang you before we can tell our story." Willa looked at the journal, at the evidence of a conspiracy that had stolen her life. Then she looked at Finn, at this man who had given up his own safety to help her. "I trust you." Something flared in Finn's eyes at her words. He stepped closer, and Willa's breath caught. For a moment she thought he might kiss her, and she realized with startling clarity that she wanted him to. But he just reached out and squeezed her hand. "We leave at dawn. It is a hard ride to Santa Fe, 5 days if we push. I brought supplies and a second horse. There is a paint mare tied out back, gentle and sure-footed." He paused. "I also brought you this." From his saddlebag he pulled a clean dress, simple brown cotton but whole and neatly folded. "Figured you might want something that is not falling apart. My boss's wife gave it to me. I told her it was for my cousin who lost everything in a fire. She did not ask questions." Willa took the dress, overwhelmed by his thoughtfulness. "Thank you for everything. I do not know how I will ever repay you. You do not owe me anything. Just promise me when this is over, when your name is cleared, you will go back to your ranch and live the life that was stolen from you. That is all the payment I need." That night, they ate beans and coffee around a small fire, talking in low voices about nothing important. Finn told her about growing up in Texas, about how he had drifted west after his sister died, unable to stay in a place that held so many painful memories. Willa shared stories about her father, about learning to ride before she could properly walk, about the first time she had branded a calf by herself. "You miss it," Finn observed. "The ranch work. Every day. I loved the challenge of it, proving I could do what everyone said a woman could not." She stared into the fire. "If I get my land back, I will need to hire new hands, Everyone scattered when I was accused. Do you think anyone will work for a woman who is branded a murderer even if I am cleared? I would work for you. Willa looked up sharply. What? Finn met her eyes across the fire. I said I would work for you if you will have me. I am good with cattle, good with horses, and I know how to work hard. And I believe in you, Willa, in what you are trying to build. You would give up your position at the Double Creek in a heartbeat. I have been drifting for 5 years now, never staying anywhere long, never putting down roots. Maybe it is time I stopped running from ghosts and started building something real. He smiled slightly. Besides, I figure you and I make a good team. We got this far together, did we not? Willa felt warmth spread through her chest that had nothing to do with the fire. We did. And yes, if we make it through this, I would be honored to have you as my foreman. Foreman, huh? Moving up in the world. They laughed, and for a moment the nightmare of the past 6 weeks faded away. Sitting here with Finn felt natural, comfortable in a way that made Willa's heart ache with longing. She had never let herself imagine a future that included a man, had been too focused on proving she could manage alone. But Finn made her want things she had not known she was missing. When the fire burned low, Finn insisted she take the bunk while he slept on the floor with his saddle as a pillow. They lay in the darkness, neither sleeping, until Willa finally spoke. Finn, are you awake? Yes. I am afraid. Not of the ride or even of getting caught. I am afraid this will not work, that the judge will not believe us, that I will hang for something I did not do. She heard him move, then felt him take her hand in the darkness. I am not going to let that happen. We have evidence, we have witness testimony, and we have the truth on our side. That has to count for something. But what if it does not? Then we run. We go to California or Oregon, somewhere they do not know your face. We start over with new names. His thumb traced circles on her palm. I meant what I said, Willa. I am not leaving you. Whatever comes, we face it together. She squeezed his hand, holding on like he was the only solid thing in a world that had become quicksand. Why are you so good to me? Because you deserve goodness. And because somewhere along the way I stopped doing this just to help you clear your name. His voice dropped lower. I am doing it because I cannot imagine my life without you in it now. Willa's heart hammered. Finn, you do not have to say anything. I know the timing is terrible and I have no right to speak of such things when you are facing a noose, but I needed you to know. Whatever happens, I needed you to know that you matter to me, more than I thought possible in just 3 days. She sat up in the bunk, finding him in the darkness. Come here. He moved to sit beside her and Willa cupped his face in her hands. You matter to me too. You have given me hope when I had none left. You have made me remember that there is still good in this world. And yes, the timing is terrible, and yes, we barely know each other, but I feel it too. This connection between us. Finn leaned his forehead against hers. When this is over, when you are free, I am going to court you properly. Take you to dances, buy you dinner, do everything the right way. You deserve that. I do not need dances or fancy dinners. I just need you. And then she kissed him, closing the last distance between them. His lips were soft but sure, tasting of coffee and possibility. He kissed her back gently, reverently, like she was something precious that might break. When they parted, both breathing hard, Finn pressed kisses to her forehead, her cheeks, the tip of her nose. We should stop, he whispered. You need to rest for the ride tomorrow. I know. But stay here with me. Just hold me tonight. I do not want to be alone. So Finn lay down beside her on the narrow bunk, wrapping his arms around her as she pressed her back against his chest. They fit together perfectly, like pieces of a puzzle Willa had not known was incomplete. Within minutes, she fell into the deepest sleep she had experienced in weeks, feeling safe for the first time since the nightmare began. They rode out at dawn, Willa on the paint mare and Finn on Chester, heading northeast toward Santa Fe. The journey tested every ounce of their endurance. They traveled through harsh desert, across rocky terrain that threatened to lame the horses, through heat that made Willa dizzy. Finn set a brutal pace, wanting to cover as much ground as possible before word of their movement spread. On the second day, they spotted a group of riders on the horizon. Finn pulled them into a narrow canyon, waiting in tense silence as the bounty hunters passed within 100 yards of their hiding spot. Willa pressed her face against her mare's neck, hardly daring to breathe. Finn had his rifle ready, and she knew he would fight to protect her if discovered. The thought filled her with both terror and a fierce tenderness. When the danger passed, they continued on. That night they camped in a grove of cottonwoods near a small stream. While Finn tended the horses, Willa washed her face and arms, trying to remove some of the dust from the trail. When she looked up, she found him watching her with an intensity that made her breath catch. "What is it?" she asked, just trying to memorize this. "You here in case." He stopped himself. "In case I hang, do not say that." Willa walked to him, taking his hands. "We have to be realistic about what we are facing. Daniel Webb has money and connections. We have a journal and some circumstantial evidence. It might not be enough. It will be enough. It has to be." Finn pulled her close, resting his chin on top of her head. "I cannot lose you, Willa, not now. Not after finding you. You will not lose me. Whatever happens, what we have found together is real. No one can take that away." She tilted her face up to his. "Make love to me, Finn, here now under the stars. I want to feel alive, to feel something other than fear." "Willa, are you certain?" "I do not want you to do anything because you think you might die tomorrow. I am not doing this because I am afraid of dying. I am doing it because I have finally found something worth living for." She rose on her toes to kiss him. "I want you. I want this. Please." Finn kissed her back with a hunger that had been building for days. His hands tangled in her hair, then moved down her back, pulling her flush against him. They sank to the ground together, fumbling with buttons and laces, desperate to feel skin against skin. When they finally came together, it was with a tenderness that brought tears to Willa's eyes. This was not just physical need. This was two souls connecting, finding solace and strength in each other. Afterward, they lay wrapped in Finn's bedroll, staring up at the vast expanse of stars overhead. Willa traced patterns on Finn's chest, learning the landscape of scars that marked him. "This one?" she asked, touching a long white line along his ribs. "Bar fight in El Paso. Fellow pulled a knife when he was losing." "And this?" A circular scar on his shoulder. "Bullet. Apache raid when I was scouting. Barely missed the bone." She kissed each scar, claiming them as part of the man she was falling irrevocably in love with. "My turn," Finn said, turning her so he could see her back. His fingers traced a thick scar near her spine. "What happened here?" "I was 12. A stallion I was breaking threw me into a fence post. My father thought I would die. Took 3 months before I could ride again. And you got right back on a horse after that, the very day the doctor cleared me. I could not let fear win." Finn kissed the scar, then pulled her back against his chest. "You are the bravest person I have ever met." "I do not feel brave. Most of the time I feel terrified. Bravery is not the absence of fear. It is doing what needs to be done despite the fear. And you, Willa Forrester, have done exactly that." He tightened his arms around her. "I love you. I know it is too soon and I have no right to say it when everything is so uncertain, but I love you." Willa rolled over to face him, her eyes shining. "I love you too. I think I started falling the moment you lowered that rifle and told me you believed in my innocence. No one had believed me in so long." They made love again, slower this time, savoring every touch and kiss. Afterward, Willa fell asleep in Finn's arms, dreaming of a future where they could be together without fear. where her name was clear and they could build the life they both wanted. The remaining days to Santa Fe passed in a blur of hard riding and stolen moments. They grew more cautious as they neared civilization, traveling mostly at night and sleeping during the day in hidden camps. Finn's supplies ran low, but he managed to snare rabbits for food and found water sources with the skill of someone who truly understood the land. On the afternoon of the 5th day, they crested a hill and saw Santa Fe sprawled in the valley below. Willa's hands shook on the reins. This was it. Within hours, she would either be free or condemned. "We go straight to Judge Carver's office," Finn said. "He is known as a fair man, not susceptible to bribes. If anyone will listen, it is him." They rode into town as the sun began to set, keeping to side streets and avoiding the main plaza. Several people stared at them, and Willa pulled her bonnet lower over her face. Had someone recognized her? Would the alarm be raised before they could reach the judge? Judge Carver's office was in a modest adobe building near the governor's palace. Finn dismounted first, helping Willa down, and they walked to the door hand in hand. Before Finn could knock, the door opened. A tall man with silver hair and piercing blue eyes stood in the doorway. "I wondered when you would arrive. I received a telegram from Raton 2 days ago, warning me that the fugitive Willa Forrester might be headed this way." He looked at Willa with an expression she could not read. "You have caused quite a stir, young lady." Willa's heart sank. They had been betrayed. Someone had seen them and sent word ahead, but Judge Carver stepped aside. "Come in, both of you. I want to hear your story before I make any decisions." Inside, the judge's office was lined with law books and smelled of tobacco and leather. He gestured for them to sit, then settled behind his desk. "Start from the beginning. Tell me everything." Finn did most of the talking, laying out the timeline, the evidence, the witness testimony. He showed the judge Daniel Webb's journal, pointed out the entries that established motive. He explained about the sheriff's family connection to Daniel, about the undertaker's concerns regarding the bullet angle, about the convenient appearance of Willa's handkerchief at the crime scene. Judge Carver listened without interrupting, his face impassive. When Finn finished, the judge turned to Willa. "What do you have to say for yourself, Miss Forrester?" "I did not kill Mayor Webb. He was a good man who helped me when my father died. I had no reason to harm him and every reason to be grateful, but I understand why it looks bad. My handkerchief was found at the scene, and I cannot prove where I was at the exact moment of the murder." She lifted her chin. "But I am asking you to look at the evidence Mr. Zimmerman has gathered. To at least investigate Daniel Webb before you send me back to hang." The judge was silent for a long moment. Then he stood and walked to the window, looking out at the darkening street. "I have known the Webb family for 20 years. The mayor was a friend. When I heard he had been murdered, I wanted justice swiftly delivered. But I have been a judge for 30 years, and in that time, I have learned that the first story is not always the true story." He turned back to face them. "I am going to issue a stay of execution for you, Miss Forrester, pending a full investigation. I am also going to send federal marshals to Raton to arrest Daniel Webb for questioning. If what you say is true, if the evidence supports it, charges against you will be dropped and he will stand trial." Willa felt her legs give out and Finn caught her, holding her upright. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you. Do not thank me yet. You are not free. You will remain in my custody until this is resolved. If the investigation clears you, then you can thank me." He looked at Finn. "You, however, are free to go. You have done more than most men would have, risking yourself for a stranger." "She is not a stranger," Finn said firmly. "She is the woman I intend to marry. Where she stays, I stay." Judge Carver's eyebrows rose. "That is quite a development. Very well. There are rooms above my office." You can both stay there under guard. It will be more comfortable than the jail, at least." The rooms were indeed more comfortable, though Willa felt the weight of confinement nonetheless. She and Finn were given separate rooms, though the guard proved sympathetic and often allowed them to sit together in the small common area, talking in low voices as they waited for news from Rattan. 10 days passed with agonizing slowness. Finn held her when the fear became too much, whispered plans for their future when she lost hope. They played cards with a worn deck the guard provided, talked about everything and nothing, and grew even closer in their forced proximity. On the 11th day, Judge Carver summoned them to his office. 2 federal marshals stood with him, their faces grim. "We have returned from Rattan," the taller marshal said. "We arrested Daniel Webb and searched his property thoroughly. We found the murder weapon hidden in his cellar, along with a blood-stained shirt. The blood matched the mayor's type. We also found a letter he had written but not sent, confessing to the crime and blaming it on financial desperation." Willa grabbed Finn's hand, hardly daring to breathe. The marshal continued. "We brought Daniel back here. Under interrogation, he confessed fully. He killed his uncle in cold blood for the inheritance, framed Miss Forrester because she was convenient and vulnerable, and bribed the sheriff to look the other way. Several other town officials were also complicit in the cover-up." Judge Carver looked at Willa with something like regret. "Miss Forrester, you have my deepest apologies for what you have endured. A grave injustice was done to you, and it is the responsibility of the law to make it right. All charges against you are hereby dropped. You are a free woman." Willa could not speak, could not move. She had imagined this moment 1,000 times, but now that it was here, she felt numb. Finn pulled her into his arms, and she finally broke, sobbing against his chest with relief and rage and overwhelming gratitude. "There is more," the judge said quietly. "Your ranch was seized for unpaid taxes and sold at auction. Daniel Webb purchased it through a proxy, intending to resell it to the railroad at a significant profit. That sale has been voided, and your property is being returned to you with full restitution for damages and lost income during your absence." "I am getting my ranch back," Willa asked through her tears. "You are getting everything back. Your land, your good name, your future. It does not erase what you suffered, but it is the best justice we can offer." Willa looked up at Finn, saw the joy and love shining in his eyes. "We can go home. We can go home," he agreed. They left Santa Fe the next morning, riding south toward Rattan with the judge's official pardon and documentation of her cleared name. The journey that had been fraught with danger on the way north felt like a celebration on the return. They took their time, stopping to camp under the stars, to make love in hidden meadows, to simply exist together without fear. When they rode into Rattan 2 weeks later, word of Willa's exoneration had already spread. People came out of their homes to watch them pass, and to Willa's surprise, many called out apologies and welcome. Not everyone, of course. Some still looked at her with suspicion or embarrassment at their own rush to judgment. But enough people seemed genuinely glad to see her vindicated that Willa felt a flicker of hope that she could rebuild her life here. The ranch looked worse than she had feared. The house had been neglected, the corrals were falling apart, and weeds had overtaken the vegetable garden her father had planted. But the bones were good, the land was still hers, and with work, it could be restored. "Where do we start?" Finn asked, surveying the damage. "Together," Willa said, taking his hand. "We start together." They spent the next months rebuilding. Finn proved to be as good as his word, working from dawn to dusk alongside Willa to repair fences, round up scattered cattle, and make the house livable again. Other hands drifted in, men who had heard about the injustice done to her and wanted to help make it right. Slowly, the ranch came back to life. On a crisp October evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and gold, Finn took Willa's hand. "I know we have only known each other 6 months. I know we have been through hell together and maybe should wait to make sure what we feel is real and not just the result of shared trauma." He turned to face her. "But I do not want to wait. I know what I feel. I love you, Willa Forrester. I want to spend the rest of my life working this land with you, building something lasting and good. Will you marry me?" Willa looked at this man who had saved her life in every way that mattered, who had believed in her when no one else would, who had proven himself day after day with his actions, not just his words. "Yes, yes, I will marry you." They were married in late November in Raton's small church, with Judge Carver traveling from Santa Fe to attend. Half the town came, wanting to show their support and perhaps assuage their guilt for doubting her. Willa wore a simple white dress and carried wildflowers Finn had picked that morning. When the preacher pronounced them husband and wife, and Finn kissed her with such tenderness it made her cry, Willa felt the last piece of her shattered world click back into place. The years that followed were not always easy. Ranch work never was. They faced droughts and hard winters, cattle rustlers and disease. But they faced it all together, their partnership growing stronger with each challenge overcome. Finn's instincts and Willa's determination proved an unbeatable combination. The ranch flourished, growing from 50 acres to 200, becoming one of the most respected operations in the territory. 3 years after their wedding, Willa gave birth to their first child, a son they named Harrison after the mayor who had shown her kindness and paid for it with his life. The boy had his father's dark hair and his mother's determined spirit. 2 years later came a daughter, Emma, with blonde curls and a laugh that could light up the darkest day. On summer evenings, the family would sit on the porch together, Harrison playing with carved wooden horses while Emma toddled after the ranch dogs. Willa would rest her head on Finn's shoulder, watching their children with a contentment she had never imagined possible during those desperate weeks on the run. "Do you ever think about how different things could have been?" she asked one such evening. "If you had not found me at that creek? If you had decided to turn me in for the bounty?" Finn kissed the top of her head. "I think about it sometimes, and then I thank God I listened to my conscience instead of temptation. You and these children are the best thing that ever happened to me. I would not trade a single moment, even the hard ones, because they all led us here. Even the part where I was wanted for murder, even that, though I could have done without the terror of thinking I might lose you before we really had a chance." Harrison looked up from his toys. "Mama, tell us the story about the cowboy who saved you." Willa laughed. "You have heard that story 100 times, but I want to hear it again. Please." So Willa told the story, carefully edited for young ears, about how a brave cowboy had found her when she was in trouble and helped clear her name. About how he had risked everything because it was the right thing to do. About how sometimes the darkest moments lead us to the greatest blessings. As she spoke, Finn's arm tightened around her. They both knew the real story was far more harrowing than the version they told their children. But they also knew that every moment of fear and danger had been worth it to reach this place of peace and love. When the children finally went to bed, Finn and Willa remained on the porch, wrapped in each other's arms under a canopy of stars. "I love you," Willa whispered. "More now than even on the day we married. Is that possible?" "It is not only possible, it is inevitable. Love that is real, that is built on trust and partnership and shared struggle, only grows stronger with time." Finn turned her face up to his. "I love you too. You are the best decision I ever made." They kissed under the stars. the same stars that had witnessed their desperate flight to Santa Fe, their nights camping in the wilderness, their first declarations of love. Those stars had seen them at their lowest and now watched them at their highest, a testament to the truth that justice, however delayed, eventually prevails, and that love can bloom even in the harshest conditions. The ranch continued to prosper. By the time Harrison was 10 and Emma 8, the Zimmerman spread was known throughout New Mexico territory for its quality cattle and fair dealing. Finn and Willa had hired on more than a dozen hands, treating them with the respect and fair wages that made men loyal. They built a new house, bigger to accommodate their growing family and the frequent visitors who came seeking Finn's advice on cattle or Willa's counsel on ranch management. On a spring morning in their 12th year of marriage, Willa stood in the doorway watching Finn teach Harrison to rope. The boy was almost a mirror image of his father now, serious and focused as he practiced his throws. Emma sat on the corral fence, shouting encouragement and critique in equal measure, already showing signs of her mother's forthright nature. Willa rested her hand on her swelling belly, feeling the flutter of new life. They had not planned for a third child, but both had welcomed the surprise with joy. At 34, Willa felt she was finally living the life her father had dreamed for her when he built this ranch from nothing. She had proven that a woman could run a successful operation, had built a family and legacy that would endure. Finn looked over and caught her watching. The smile he gave her still made her heart skip, even after all these years. He said something to Harrison, then jogged over to the house. "You are supposed to be resting," he scolded gently, pulling her into his arms. "I am resting. I am standing completely still. That is not what the doctor meant, and you know it." He placed his hand over hers on her belly. "How is our little surprise doing today? Active?" "I think we might have another rancher on our hands." "Good. We will need all the help we can get once Harrison and Emma start getting ideas about courting and such." Willa laughed. "They are children still. Children grow up fast. Trust me. One day we will blink and they will be bringing home suitors, and we will have to evaluate them the way you evaluate cattle at auction. If any boy wants to court Emma, he had better be prepared to work. I will not have my daughter tied to a man who expects her to be decorative rather than useful. And if any girl wants to court Harrison, she had better be strong enough to handle his stubbornness. He gets that from you, by the way." "He does not. He gets it from you." They were still playfully arguing when Judge Carver's carriage rolled up the drive. The judge, now in his 70s and fully retired, visited several times a year, having developed a grandfatherly affection for the family he had helped save. Judge Carver. Emma shrieked, jumping down from the fence and running to greet him. "Did you bring peppermints, Emma Manners?" Willa called, but she was smiling. The judge always brought peppermints, and Emma knew it. Over lunch, the judge shared news from Santa Fe and beyond. New Mexico was pushing for statehood, the railroad was expanding, and the wild frontier they had known was slowly being tamed. Daniel Webb had died in prison 2 years earlier, never showing remorse for what he had done. The corrupt sheriff and his deputies had been removed from office and faced their own legal consequences. "Justice was served," the judge said, looking at Willa, "though it came at great cost to you." "The cost was worth the ending," Willa replied, reaching for Finn's hand across the table. "I would not change anything, because changing any part of it might mean not having this life, this family. The suffering made me appreciate what I have now in ways I might not have otherwise." After the judge left, they gathered as a family in the parlor. Harrison read aloud from a book about famous lawmen while Emma practiced her letters, tongue stuck out in concentration. Finn sat in his favorite chair with Willa perched on the arm, his hand resting possessively on her hip. This was their life now. Not perfect, but real and good and earned through struggle and determination. The woman who had knelt by that creek 13 years ago, desperate and hunted, would hardly recognize the confident ranch owner she had become. But that woman had possessed a core of steel that no injustice could break, and it was that strength that had carried her through the darkness into light. As the evening shadows lengthened, and Willa felt her baby move beneath her heart, she sent up a silent prayer of gratitude. For Finn, who had seen her worth when the world branded her worthless. For her children, healthy and happy. For the land that had been stolen and returned. For the second chance that so few received. "What are you thinking about?" Finn asked softly. "Everything. How far we have come. How lucky I am. We are lucky, both of us." He pulled her down into his lap, ignoring the children's giggles. "I found you at that creek for a reason. Maybe fate, maybe divine intervention, maybe just dumb luck. But whatever force brought us together, I am grateful for it every single day." "So am I. You saved my life in every way that matters. And you saved mine. I was drifting before I met you, running from ghosts, never putting down roots. You gave me a home, a purpose, a family. You made me whole." They kissed, soft and sweet, a promise renewed. The children made exaggerated gagging sounds, and Willa laughed against Finn's lips. "We are scandalizing the children. Good. Let them see that their parents are still in love. It is a lesson worth learning." As spring turned to summer, the ranch hummed with activity. They hired additional hands for the cattle drive to market, and Finn spent long days in the saddle ensuring everything ran smoothly. Willa, now heavily pregnant, managed the household and paperwork, proving that leadership did not require being on horseback. The baby came in late August, arriving quickly during a thunderstorm that shook the house. Finn paced outside the bedroom, Harrison and Emma huddled with him, all three waiting anxiously. When the midwife finally emerged with a squalling bundle, she was grinning. "You have another son, healthy and loud. Mother is doing fine too." They named him James after Finn's father, and he proved to be the most easygoing of their children. Where Harrison was serious and Emma was spirited, James was content and observant, happy to watch the world unfold around him. The years continued their steady march forward. Harrison grew into a fine young man, taking on more responsibilities around the ranch and proving himself a worthy heir to what his parents had built. Emma, true to her nature, became an accomplished rider and roper, shocking many of the neighboring ranchers by competing in local competitions and often winning. James, quieter than his siblings, showed a talent for numbers and took over managing the ranch's accounts. On their 20th wedding anniversary, Finn surprised Willa by taking her back to the old mining cabin where she had hidden all those years ago. He had arranged for the children to stay with neighbors and pack supplies for a weekend away. "Why here?" Willa asked as they approached the familiar canyon. "Because this is where we truly began. Yes, I found you at the creek, but this cabin is where we first really talked, where I held you while you cried, where I made promises I have spent 20 years keeping. I wanted to come back here with you, to remember where we started." The cabin was still standing, though more weathered than before. They spent the afternoon cleaning it out, making it habitable for a night. As the sun set, they sat outside with coffee, watching the same landscape that had witnessed their first uncertain alliance. "You ever regret it?" Willa asked. "Taking such a huge risk for someone you barely knew?" "Not for 1 second. That decision led to everything good in my life. You, our children, our home. If I could go back and do it again, I would not change a single thing. Even the scary parts, especially the scary parts. They taught us what we were capable of, what we were willing to fight for, and they proved that some things are worth any risk." They made love in the old cabin, their bodies familiar but their passion undiminished by time. Afterward, wrapped in blankets and each other, they talked through the night about their hopes for their children, their plans for the ranch, their dreams for the years still ahead. "I want to see Harrison married and settled," Willa said. "He has been courting that Miller girl for 2 years now. I think he will propose soon. Emma will be harder to match. She has high standards. She gets that from me, I know, and I am grateful for it. She will not settle for less than she deserves." "What about you?" Willa asked. "What do you want for our future?" Finn was quiet for a moment. "I want to grow old with you. I want to watch our children build their own lives. I want to sit on our porch when we are 70 and remember all of this and know that we did it right, that we built something lasting not just in land and cattle but in love and family. That is what I want too. Then that is what we will have." True to their hopes, Harrison married Sarah Miller the following spring in a wedding that brought together ranchers from across the territory. Emma, at 21, was still determinedly single, focused on developing a breeding program for ranch horses that was gaining recognition. James, at 18, had announced his intention to study law, wanting to ensure that what had happened to his mother never happened to anyone else if he could prevent it. Finn and Willa, now in their 40s, began to slowly hand over the day-to-day operations to Harrison and his new bride. They remained active and engaged, but with less of the physical burden that had defined their earlier years. This allowed them more time together, more quiet evenings on the porch, more lazy Sunday mornings in bed. On one such morning, Willa woke to find Finn watching her in the early light. "What?" she asked, self-conscious. "Just thinking about how beautiful you still are, how lucky I am that you said yes when I asked you to marry me. I am 43 years old, Finn. I have gray in my hair and wrinkles around my eyes. And I love every gray hair and every wrinkle, because each one represents a year we have spent together. You are more beautiful to me now than you were at 22, because now I know every part of you. The strong parts and the vulnerable parts, the fierce parts and the tender parts. You are everything, Willa." She kissed him, pouring 20 years of love into the gesture. "You are everything to me too. My savior, my partner, my best friend. I cannot imagine having lived any other life but this one with you." They lay together as the sun rose higher, content in the silence of deep understanding. Their story, which had begun with injustice and fear, had become one of love and redemption. The bounty on her head had been for a murder she did not commit, but it had led her to the man who would help her prove her innocence, and then spend the rest of his life proving that love was real. In the years that followed, they became the respected elders of their community. Harrison and Sarah gave them 4 grandchildren who adored their grandfather's stories and their grandmother's strength. Emma eventually married a neighboring rancher's son who matched her spirit and drive, building their own successful operation. James became a prominent lawyer in Santa Fe, dedicating his career to defending the wrongly accused, his mother's story driving his passion for justice. Finn and Willa remained on the ranch, now run primarily by Harrison, but still bearing their mark in every fence post and corral. They took walks in the evening, their hands clasped like newlyweds, talking about everything and nothing. They rode out together on horseback when the weather was fine, checking fences more for the excuse to be alone together than from any real necessity. On their 30th anniversary, their children and grandchildren gathered for a celebration. The ranch house, expanded over the years, overflowed with family and love. After dinner, Harrison stood to make a toast. "To my parents, who taught me that strength is not about never falling down, but about getting back up no matter how many times you are knocked down. who showed me that love is a partnership of equals, who built this ranch and this family from nothing but determination and faith in each other. May we all be so lucky as to find what you two have found together." Glasses clinked, and Willa felt tears on her cheeks. She looked at Finn, saw the same emotion in his eyes, and squeezed his hand. Later, when the guests had departed and the house was quiet, they returned to their porch. The stars overhead were the same stars that had witnessed their desperate flight, their first confession of love, their wedding, the births of their children. Those stars had become old friends, constant witnesses to a love story that had defied the odds. 30 years, Willa marveled. It feels like both a lifetime and no time at all. I know what you mean. Sometimes I can still see you as you were that day at the creek, all fierce determination and barely concealed fear. And sometimes I look at you and see only the woman you are now, confident and content. Both versions are me, the scared girl and the confident woman. You helped me become the latter without forgetting the former. Finn pulled her close. I love all your versions, past, present, and future. For as long as we have left, I will love you. For as long as we have left, Willa echoed. Which better be a good long while yet. We have grandchildren to spoil and a ranch to oversee and many more sunsets to watch together. Then, that is what we will do. They sat in comfortable silence as the night deepened around them. Two people who had found each other against impossible odds and built a life that exceeded their wildest dreams. The bounty on her head was long forgotten, the murder cleared, the real killer punished. What remained was the life they had created together, brick by brick, day by day, choice by choice. Willa rested her head on Finn's shoulder, feeling the steady beat of his heart beneath her cheek. This man had saved her life, had loved her through the worst and celebrated with her through the best. He had been her partner in every sense of the word, working beside her to build something lasting and good. As sleep began to claim her there on the porch, wrapped in her husband's arms under a blanket of stars, Willa thought about how differently things could have ended. If Finn had not believed in her, if he had turned her in, if the judge had not listened, she would have hanged for a crime she did not commit. Her ranch would have gone to Daniel Webb, her dreams would have died with her, and Finn would have continued drifting through life without purpose. But fate, or God, or simple human decency had intervened. One man had chosen to do the right thing even when it was hard, even when it was dangerous. And that single choice had changed everything, had created this beautiful life full of love and family and purpose. "Thank you," she whispered against Finn's chest. "For what? For believing me, for saving me, for loving me, for everything." Finn kissed the top of her head. "Thank you for letting me, for giving me a home and a family and a reason to stop running. We saved each other, Willa. That is what love does." And in that perfect moment, with her husband's arms around her and 30 years of love behind them and hopefully many more ahead, Willa Zimmerman knew that every moment of fear and pain had been worth it to reach this place of complete contentment. Her story had begun with injustice, but it had become one of redemption, of love conquering all obstacles, of two souls finding each other in the midst of chaos and choosing to build something beautiful together. The stars twinkled overhead, bearing witness as they had for 30 years, to a love that had survived the worst the world could throw at it and emerged stronger on the other side. And somewhere in the night, if you listened carefully, you might have heard the echo of a promise made long ago beside a creek in the desert, a promise kept through 3 decades of partnership and devotion. A promise that would endure until the last star faded from the sky and beyond.